basically lied about the tiniest in the world. Like, apparently he had vocal cord surgery to make his voice deeper, and like...
So, from what I'm understanding then, you never really watched his videos, but you backed him up anyway?
Then yeah, it makes me look like a retard, it makes them look like a retard, and it should have never happened in the first place. You kind of talk to a guy, you know, you give out your personal side, and I notice now in retrospect, you never really kind of reciprocated the same stuff to me. No, but I mean, like, you're right, I am retarded, though. You did call me a retard, let's not... The relationship is already dead, like, the bridge is burned. We ended that call on screams, so that call ended up with yelling between each other. Hello?
Hello, how's it going?
Still a long day of research. I'm watching this 5-hour Spencer interview and just noting it down. But yeah, I actually found out about you through Nick Diorio.
Cool. Yeah, okay.
So I watched one of your videos, and then obviously the recommendeds got filled up, and I noticed you were covering a lot of the Mac stuff. I did also catch that obviously you were reviewing some of the podcasts, and I definitely agree with every single criticism made over there. It's actually been a really big sore point in the last 48 hours. More personal stuff has sort of come out between, not come out, but I found out through me and Max, which is not something that I'm entirely, over. But the other thing I saw was honestly what I wanted to kind of get your permission on was this Kai police report, because I'm making a video on Max. Me and Nick are really. He's doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing. Tuesday, we have kind of a tentative release. We had a call with Max actually 2 days ago at this point, I think. It was at night, me, Nick, Max, and Spencer. And I'll say it's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back, but it's 2 hours of my life that absolutely did not paint this person in a good light. And I did catch what you were saying about fraud, right? Like his work is very fraudulent, and I think just 7 minutes of that recording is enough to show you that nothing has ever truly been done about any of the targets that he's went after, and it's a lie that I've had to find out, Nexpo and a few other creators, specifically in that horror community, which, is not something.
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because like, I've had like some criticisms for you, but you're kind of coming in and saying, your criticisms are correct. So
no, you're right. And I'm not saying this to fucking, sound like it's groveling or anything. It's just when I watched your criticism, it was absolutely 100% true. It's no doubt that me and Max had a more of a friendship than I would say me and another creator, right? Like, if you compared it to somebody like Charlie or me versus me and Max, Max is somebody that I have seen in real life. I have talked to in a real life. I've met him when I was flying around for VidCon and PAX South and a few of these events. So was there more of a personal connection? Probably, yeah. When you see somebody in reality and you have a beer with them and you talk to them and you kind of open up about your personal life. And now I'm finding out in like the last 48 hours that he basically lied about the tiniest shit in the world. Like apparently he had fucking vocal cord surgery to make his voice deeper, and like wouldn't even tell me the truth on that, and fucking just gets like runs through girlfriends more than anything that I could imagine, and like I'm not even finding about anything in reality. It's fucking insane. So
okay, well, the biggest question I've got for you, right? I mean, I appreciate the fact that you are recognizing a lot of these issues, right? But the question I'd have is like, why did it take you so long to get to this point?
So this point has kind of been building since my first I want to say like a couple months ago when this whole started, and I was talking with Tommy C, right? And I want to say like the eyes were kind of opening up, because for the longest time, I will admit that me alongside multiple other creators were kind of giving Max the benefit of the doubt, because he made pretty big videos, which admittedly I didn't look at every single second of them. He was hunting pedophiles, so it was really a situation where it was a lot of, I want to say, unearned what is that word? Unearned
credibility.
Unearned credibility for
right.
because he's such a big creator. And it wasn't until like I had that discussion with Tommy C, and Tommy was obviously criticizing him just as everyone is, way before everyone else. So it was talking to him, it was talking to Nicholas Diorio, and then what really sealed the deal was when I want to say 2 months ago we had received the initial DMs to this entire situation, right? This cult situation. He told me he was working on a cult project, and I was like, okay, sure. I mean, I'm down to help out if I can in any way, because that's what I say to any creators that I'm on, a friendly term with, right? Like if Coffee hit me up or Barely or, fucking Charlie, I'm like, sure, I'll help out. He sent us, like, when he released that brainwashing video, right? I looked into it and I was like, this isn't substantial, right? Like, I don't know where you're going with it. It's very schizophrenic. And at the time, it was constant assurance of, we have ironclad evidence, we have evidence, we have evidence. And, in a situation that involves, like, rape and fucking sexual assault and everything, I'm sitting over there like, man, I'm going to be a real dick if I start really questioning him, especially if he is like a friend for me at the time. I'm just going to kind of, understand that he probably does have the evidence and it's going to come out. He didn't come out with any evidence. He just released more videos, which further put a strain on all of our relationships, me specifically with him, because when he released the second video, and this is before the Charlie cancellation one, where he reacts to criticisms, I felt like some of his criticisms, like he was doing a bit of deflecting, and then recently revisiting for a video this week, a lot of deflection. When he made that Charlie cancellation video, it was just kind of hitting me in the DMs. I watched it and I'm like, again, there is no actual credible evidence on any of it. So one of the problems with his videos, and one thing that I explained to him was, he did this game in the video where, people had to go frame by frame. And I was like, okay, so I'm going frame by frame and I'm looking at every fucking single goddamn screenshot that you're showing, and nothing is like credible or nothing is actionable. It's all just at worst sexually charged messages. There was one actual screenshot. Let me actually open up my Google Doc where I was looking through here. He shows one screenshot from fucking Camden's Facebook account where it's like, suck it bitch, suck it raw. And I'm like, what does that necessarily prove? How does that lead to believing cult behavior? How does that do this, and that? So it was like, at that point, the lights kind of open. And then obviously looking at some of the most recent stuff, IMVU and Cartoon Incorporated, which again, I don't know the full context of. I've seen the people breaking it down, so I'm good. That's what I'm looking at, later on tonight once I'm done with this 5-hour Spencer video. Because,
yeah, listen, look, I just want to cut in quickly, because the problem I've got is, this is great, and I appreciate you coming to a realization about this, right? But it's just insane to me that you didn't notice and didn't watch any of his videos to find this out, because it's so obvious when you look at it for 10 minutes that he's completely full of shit. So from what I'm understanding then, you never really watched his videos, but you backed him up anyway.
He would he would just like give us the gist of it behind the scenes, because that would be like, he would just tell us about the research behind sort of the scenes. But no, it wasn't like I would watch the finalized videos, at least most of them.
Right, okay. So, because that's one thing for me is, there's lots of, chats popping off. I've got some people in chat that, listen, I've got some people in chat that fucking despise you and they're popping off right now, okay? So, I'm just pointing that out. I just want to say...
They're right. I mean, they're right in this situation, right? Like, obviously,
no, I know, but
in retrospect, you should watch the video. Yeah.
But it's hard because you're coming in and it's like you're saying, I'm wrong about everything. So it's difficult because, like, I don't know, I feel like you've really fucked up here. But when you're saying you're wrong about everything, it's like, well, yeah, you're saying you're wrong about everything. But, like, how, like... Does this not bother you and concern you about your process, that you're kind of giving so much validation to someone when you've not like watched their videos at all? That sounds crazy to me.
I mean, it does bother me, especially in a case where it involves, the situations and coverage that he does, where he looks into IMVU and a lot of these social media services. And even when it came to a lot of his previous projects, like, fucking Wake Up YouTube and all this shit, it was always the discussions where even if I did jump on the train with him, with the other creators, it was always like, we're not going to target YouTube because they're not responding to you, and we're not going to make a narrative, some QAnon narrative, where fucking YouTube is systematically working with predators. At the end of the day, it was always me reminding him that these are massive websites, and if there is some malfeasance that happens, it's because usually it's a case of things slipping through the cracks. But yeah, when it came to his investigations, it was always stuff that he basically told us, like, yeah, you're getting people convicted, and, it was one of those things where it's like, all right. And he did have a history of just telling us that, yeah, he's doing his absolute best to work with law enforcement and everything, right? And it was one of those situations where, okay, my, friend at the time is telling me, and if it was my enemy, if it was somebody that I already had like a fucking problem with, then, I should look into it. So yeah, that is where my process is fucked up. I would say, even months before then, since I have been working more financial, situations and cases with people like Coffee and Carl and, Barely Sociable, my process for evaluating my co-researchers, and Max was never a co-researcher, but to evaluate like even my friends' vetting, right? Even recently with the Gerard situation, when we were looking into, the Open Hand Foundation, Carl was very, I would say, inflammatory.
No, sorry, listen. Sorry to cut you off, right? But the thing is, you're doing a lot of talking, okay? And I like that, right? Yeah. It's great that you're taking the L, you're owning the L, right? I guess that my concern, and the thing is, I don't want to belabor the point and just call you retarded, right? And all that stuff. But like, you've been really retarded here. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, bro, you're a big YouTuber. And it's kind of shocking to me, I guess, that you never even went to look at his finished work to see how insane it was, because I'm only a small fry in the grand scheme of things, and I saw it in 10 minutes. I'm not a particularly smart guy, and it's just kind of shocking to me, and I just wonder, how did it get here? How did it get to the point where you're years down the line and you've not seen his work? And like, do you need to change your process maybe? Is there a problem with your process? Perhaps?
No, I absolutely do. And that's literally like, this is, like I said, it's one of the things that I have been doing by examining my more recent work. And then obviously now with Max, it's like, this is, I would say it's a retarded thing of me to have done. Like 100%, you're right. Like I'm a fucking retard in this situation. And I think a lot of the larger creators that have jumped into it are also as retarded in this situation. That doesn't excuse anything that we've done. So yeah, if I'm going to evaluate my process, it's literally by this entire Max, video and covering the situation and trying to make things right. Even with Magnetar, like Magnetar, okay. I got in touch with, things are all kind of cool over there. And he's a big point of my video because, even on my podcast, when I rewatch it, even the segment beyond what I saw with Nick, right? I was like, this is me literally taking Max at face value for a serious situation. And that is a fucking retard point on anybody in there. I'm not going to speak for anybody else in that podcast, but me specifically. Yeah, I fucking did something completely 100% fucking retarded. I didn't look and vet things incredibly carefully as I should have, especially for a situation this seriously. Yeah. And, going forward, if any of my creators and any of my creator friends needs any assistance, no matter what your size is, it could be somebody that I have full faith in, like somebody like Charlie, for instance, if he comes at me with something, or somebody like, CoffeeZilla, who's been known to be pretty ironclad and bulletproof. Does that mean I'm not going to check their work anymore? Absolutely not. I'm going to watch every minute of their video, and I'm going to make sure I co-sign if I do give my co-signment, because I understand if I co-sign something, I'm basically admitting that what they're saying is real, which is why it was so difficult for me to co-sign Max's recent work, because it was a time where, he pressured me basically to actively look into every single video that he did, and that's kind of a wake up. But yeah, it is wrong. I was friends with the guy. Yeah, I covered his shit, and I covered it wrong. That was a fucking retard thing on my end. Now, anybody else that I co-signed, I'm more worried about, because it's like, what if there was another person like MamaMax, right? Like, I don't know. I love Nexpo. He's a great friend of mine. What if he covered a topic? Nick Crowley, I love him. He's a great friend of mine. What if he covered a video and like, turns out a year ago I might have, said this guy's a great creator. Oh, he's an awesome guy, credible dude. I look at one of his projects a year ago and it turns out it's full of shit. Then yeah, it makes me look like a fucking retard. It makes them look like a retard, and it should have never happened in the first place. So
because, I think the other thing as well, because another thing I want to get to too is that I think you're taking the L on that. That's great. I guess the other concern I've got is obviously Nicholas played you the clip, which was you calling Magnetar or insinuating at the very least, whatever you want to call it. Basically people came away thinking he was a pedophile off the back of your words, or it was revalidated, right? But also before that, when you commented on the allegations against Max, you made out like it was just like a young guy doing stupid stuff and kind of dismissed the more serious claims that I think were made. I don't know if you've looked into that yet at all, but just
I haven't looked into that. I haven't looked into any of that. I don't know exactly. Like it's been a long time since that whole thing, so I got to like revisit the entire Believe All Abuser stuff.
And the thing is, it seems, for me personally, I think that the focus should always be on MamaMax fucking this up. But I think for a lot of people that I've kind of talked about or watched my stream, it's very disappointing that you kind of defended that when. And the thing is, if you want to say he's changed or whatever, or make an argument that that's fine. But I think it was a dismissal of more substantive claims as, oh, he was just a young guy doing stuff. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things, if it's regarding like his girlfriends, one of the personal things that kind of hit us with this girlfriend stuff too was there was a period where he dated one of his assistants.
Right.
Doobie, I think that's what her name is. I remember when like she was staying with us because I had rented a place out in fucking Burbank, Los Angeles for VidCon, and she ended up like visiting him. She was dating him at the time, and this was a girl that like I remember like Max. He's a very like quiet guy, so when this girl was over here, she was like bringing vials of like she was wearing like a vial of his blood around him. She was kind of a wild individual. She possessed almost the same traits. Now, in retrospect, I think that her and Max should fucking probably get back together again, just because she was, another, I would say, relatively deceptive individual. So when it came time for Max describing his girlfriends, as a friend at the time, I kind of believe what he said, but looking at the history of the women that he dated, a lot of the times that he would say, these claims are unsubstantiated. My one experience with one of his girlfriends, it was like, it kind of clouded my judgment on the other possible ones, which is why I really do want to revisit personally to believe all abusers and get a quick idea. Because even recently with Nick, when I was calling him, there was a discussion about one of the girls and stalking. I think it was started with a K. What was her name? Haley, sorry. Which is one thing that at least I'm looking into. It's not a focal point of like any video that I'm making on him because it's already long enough as it is. But, these are serious claims that, I should never have brushed off. And now looking into it, it paints, I wouldn't say like, I don't know if I can comfortably say, if one side is definitive or not, but there is, at least from my understanding, I personally do believe that he's more malicious than he initially, was.
Yeah.
When I was looking into this case.
If you haven't looked into it, I don't think the answer is obviously to make more unsubstantiated claims or whatever. But I just think that recognizing that was wrong. And the other question, I guess, is I think that in other calls or somewhere else, I think you made a comment that made it seem like you weren't particularly like close to this guy. But now you're saying and recognizing that you were kind of friends with him. So like, what would you say conclusively is the relationship with this guy?
So my relationship, and this is just in the last 24, 48 hours, which is one of the most objective part about like the relationship is, I definitely feel like I put more of my energy into a relationship than the other party. To give an idea, my first time meeting Max in person would be San Antonio, Texas, when PAX South was happening. And, usually guys, we get together, we have a few drinks, and then, at the end of the night, you kind of talk to a guy, you give out your personal side. And I notice now in retrospect, you never really kind of reciprocated the same stuff to me. And we met more and more, like me, Nexpo, MamaMax, this Night Docs guy who was there for a while, Nick, Crowley, a lot of these guys, we would fly together and meet up in our off times. And, I would always be there to help or like say, hey, Max, if you need, help understanding or working through a YouTube guideline thing or something, then sure, I'm here to discuss. What kind of sucks is I would be open about my personal, like, relationships. I mean, I would invite this guy into my life, I would let him meet, Jen and everyone else. And, he wouldn't even tell me about a fucking stupid tiny thing, like tiny things that you're lying about, like a fucking vocal cord surgery where he's trying to get his fucking voice deepened. And, stupid shit about, like, him not even, like, telling me, oh, I broke up with this girl, or here's his new girlfriend, like, if you're going to be a friend, you should, at least invite me. He would, I guess now, talk more to, like, Nexpo or, like, these other guys, and I would just kind of be, like, the one dude far away from the situation, which fucking sucks ass, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? Like, yeah, some people put more energy into something, and that's what it is. At the time, I really did put him up as a friend on YouTube, right? As somebody that I met in person, and I personally believe that he could be a personal friend. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like it wasn't reciprocated either way.
Listen, I'm not here to like judge your personal relationship super hard, right? We all have friendships that fall apart, and you're friends with someone that turns out to be a retard or whatever. But I mean, I'm presuming you watched some of his video, like. Did the editing and the weird deep voice, none of that triggered anything in either? Like, this guy's a bit of an oddball.
I mean, this is the shit that we'd always like kind of, because we always thought that was just the style of the schizophrenic editing and everything,
Oh, he was like an act or something.
I mean, it was always just like he always like was like a fucking filmmaker. Like he was like that's what his trade is, and that's what he always told me. So I'm like, oh, I guess he's just like an auteur style filmmaker, which is whatever. A lot of people in that community, you know, in the horror community, were like filmmakers. It was, you know, in a way, like they would always have like kind of that darker editing. Max was at the extreme end of it, but you know, comparing him to like even people like, you know, Nexpo at the time, right, or like other people, is always this dark, foreboding editing that would, you know, draw the audience in with kind of more spectacle. And you know, it's something that I personally never understood, because when I make a video, it's like fucking no background music, none of that bullshit. It's just, you know, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, goodbye. So it was one of the things that, I mean, you know.
Did you ever notice or see any of like the kind of I you know, I don't know how deep you've gone into this. There's lots of people making content about this, but did you ever see or note any sort of like violent undertones or calls to violence that bothered you in his work?
I did see one recently on his Vimeo. Actually, wait, there is one video on his channel. The thumbnail of it is him like standing there all bloody. Yes, there were calls to violence. Actually, that's a good point. So when he ever got like a YouTube guideline strike, right? Like shit got hit with like hateful or like whatever guideline, like, you know, violent imagery or something. He would come up and basically tell us, you know, it's like, oh, YouTube's like targeting, and you know, I would just be like, it's not YouTube targeting. It's like, listen, if you're gonna put full names or shit like that, or you know, ever put a call to violence, YouTube is going to take your content down. And that was one of the ways that at least I personally would try to get, like, you know, Max to understand the situation. Like, look, I don't like. But then you make a video.
But wait, that's good. But then you make a video. Like, there's one video from 3 years ago when he first did this, and I've not watched it in full, but I believe you were saying, you know, my friend got his video taken down. You know, and I'll admit I've not watched it.
Is it the kids chat?
I believe it was over the kids chat video. Yeah, it was the it was the pedo tube thing, the very first one he did.
I gotta see that video again, but I would not be supporting a call to action from him, though.
Yeah, like I say, I haven't watched it, so I can't speak to the contents of it. But I guess my concern would be that you're doing this privately, but then you're, you know, just by
it's a thumbnail is the website protecting predators.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there was an archive link to his old video, but the thing is, and the thing I'd say is that, you know, not to get into the old thumbnails and titles business, but I think just making a video about it that isn't super critical lends some credibility to his argument regardless, right? Especially if you are critical, it's like in the video somewhere, like, I mean, look, maybe it's too much to ask, but I think anything beyond making a video going, yeah, this is fucking insane, what's he talking about, just ends up lending credibility, which has allowed him to kind of grow and grow and grow. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I'm watching like the video, and I kind of go over the YouTube guidelines specifically about harassments, and I discuss about what could get the video kind of taken down. I like, if I do cover something from him, it's always with the intention that, yeah, I will cover your stuff, but it's not that I'm gonna be fucking, you know, on your, like, if you're gonna get taken down for harassment, cyberbullying, and I've always said this to Max and everyone else as well, is like, if you get taken down for shit like that, it's because you trip something in a guideline. Like, people can call like my videos safe when I'm covering a topic. Like, I won't make a fucking joke about somebody's image or even bring up a name, or I'll block more things than I have to, right? Like a public name on Reddit, I always censor out, because who knows if I get fucking hit with a privacy guideline or any of that bullshit. I can take a side with Max if it means going up against predators, but obviously you should be, and I have been critical with him, I believe publicly and privately, when it comes to him getting taken down, because if you are making violent undertones in your content and it gets taken down, it's not because YouTube is protecting predators, it's because you broke the rules. So if you're going to cover content like this, stay within the rules and do that.
So that's good, but I guess the question I'd ask, if you were to ask anyone, just a random person, like, does some ordinary gamers back MamaMax and his kind of goals and what he's doing? I think most people would go, yeah, he does, but he never deserved that support in the first place. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So the broad narrative that you've helped by doing these videos, I don't think is diminished by occasionally saying, or even in the video saying, look, this is why it could get taken down, because I think the perception is going to be that you support this guy and back this guy, which has, you know, enabled him to build up all this, you know. And like I say, I appreciate you taking the L. You know, it's difficult because,
you know, like, I'll say this much. I'm not against people that are hunting bad people on the internet and trying to stop that. I'm not against that at all. I don't think that that's in itself a bad pursuit. it can be bad when it jumps from like, you know, you working with like a law enforcement agency, which at the time I was led to believe that this was, you know, in conjunction with any law enforcement agency, which now I don't know, and now I also know that he never ever got anybody sent to jail. His admission, not mine. In a situation like that, when you're working on cases, I think if you can get people in jail, that's cool. Like there's channels like Skeet Hansen, who I always see a law enforcement agent in the end of, even like Alex Rosen, like the guy who botched the EDP case. Very recently, he's getting convictions piled up, which is not the worst thing. Like I don't think that's bad. I think when you're covering topics like this, though, obviously the law enforcement aspect is strong, because obviously if these people get away with it, it makes, you know, that's when the outrage exists, right? That's when your vigilantism has failed and somebody who could potentially have committed a crime has gotten away with it. Max's situation recently I find worse, because now I'm finding out that I think it's the IMVU video, that the entire video is fabricated, or at least one of the victims' his story was completely fabricated, which at that point I just think is predator porn, which, you know, it's just it's just fetishistic content at the end of the day. So, you know, I just want to. I'm not against vigilante. I'm against vigilantism. I'm not against predator poaching as a concept. I think if it's done right and bad people can be put behind bars, cool, awesome. You know, who wouldn't be against that? But obviously, if you're not taking your due diligence, then all you're doing is boosting yourself in the algorithm, and you're not really getting any justice done. And that's one of the things.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's a flawed concept, but working with the police is about the best way that you can do it. And I guess, you know, and I don't want to belabor the point because it seems like you agree this was wrong, but like he was doing none of it. He was doing all the fucking flashy editing, and there was nothing backing it up. From what my own investigation, if you could call it that, look, watching a few videos on stream, you know, didn't really seem to show anything. And this leads on to my other point, which is that, you know, Tommy C called this out. Like, how do you feel about the way that Tommy C got treated over this whole fiasco?
That's a thing I talked about with Tommy C a day ago, because I recently found out, like, Tommy C was also a CSA survivor, and there's a section of one of Max's videos where he goes over QR codes where he literally, I would say that I feel he re-victimizes Tommy, right? And it's one of the things where I talked about it, and even with Tommy's interview, which I think is an important part of this video, Tommy himself says, listen, you know, at the end of the day, what Max is doing is fetishistic work. You know, he wants to see people put behind bars, but the way that Max is doing it with this hyper violent, hyper flashy, I would say content that's designed to satisfy, you know, people that kind of jump into this topic with their toe dipped in, that's, you know, not good. I mean, I've had this discussion with Tommy recently, and actually I would say Tommy C and his call-outs with Max, because I have respect for Tommy C. I've talked to him, and I think if he's going to say something, there's probably some weight to it. And, you know, he's the kind of guy that, you know, made me kind of stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Not that I should have ever drunk the Kool-Aid in the first place, but yeah.
Dude, this is so difficult because, you know, I would rather have an argument and just call you a retard repeatedly, but you seem to accept.
No, but I mean, like, you're right. I am retarded, though. You did call me a retard. Let's not pretend you didn't get that satisfaction. Yeah, you call me a retard. I mean, what the fuck? If you call me a retard, call me a retard. I have been a retard here.
Okay. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I mean, you know, you got to understand from my perspective, because I covered it and was critical at the time. You know, I was watching you seemingly just dismiss like a bunch of shit that I thought was there, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And to me it came across as they say, sweeping for a friend, right? Which and from my perspective, it's like, I understand it's difficult if your friend gets accused of stuff, but then surely at that point you either recuse yourself from the conversation and say, I'm not going to talk about this because I'm too close to it, or you say, I'm going to go over it in detail and make sure everyone knows the full story for full transparency. Look, and you did like the worst possible option.
My intention was never to actually sweep for a friend, but I wouldn't deny that unwittingly, without thinking, my actions did actually end up doing that, which is bad. I'm not going to fucking pretend that I didn't, like, you know, I didn't want to sweep for a friend. That's not something I had a fucking conscious intention of. That's a terrible thing to do. But just because you do something by accident doesn't necessarily mean that the action didn't happen, right? Like, obviously I fucked up in that situation. But, you know, in this situation now, it's, you know, instead of fucking digging my fucking heels in the sand and still standing by Max and, you know, trying to not take an L, that's just going to, I mean, that's like, forget about the public perceptions of it, right? That's just morally the wrong fucking thing to do. You know, if there is something wrong, own up to it and correct it. And that's one of the things that I want to do with this video. My video here is not like, I don't want to fucking destroy Max. I don't really, like, I think he's doing a fucking dandy job on his own by his accord. He doesn't need anybody's assistance. But for me, this video is mostly towards Magnetar. I fucked him a lot at the end of it. You're right. I should have probably been like, I have no comment. I don't know the entire story. I wasn't a fly on the wall. And given the size of my platform, had I made a video that could have vindicated fucking Magnetar, the end of it, which if I had done that, maybe we wouldn't even have gotten to the point where Max is doing fucking God Cult, That's where the thing is.
And the thing is like, I don't know what everyone said about this, but I'm certain that there's probably other people who need to put their hand up as you're doing and saying, yeah, I fucked this up too, because...
I don't think anybody's going to say. I think people are just going to fucking walk away from this without thinking about it. I want to take the L, like, absolutely, like, it's something to do, but I don't think you're going to expect many other, especially a large creator, to fucking even jump into it. I know everyone that I've spoken to behind the scenes is just, they want to fucking wash away from this and call it a day, which... fine, is up to them, cool, but,
I mean, if I fucked up something real bad, I'd feel the same, and I'd feel kind of, ashamed and want to sort it out. So it's just wild to me that people who have got these big platforms are just going to walk away. Like, I'm pretty sure there's some people who were supporting MamaMax and now are just criticizing him without recognizing they did that support, which is kind of crazy to me. Like, surely you've got to take an L for that. I don't know, but
I mean, but that's the thing. Nobody's gonna fucking. I mean, it's fucking tough to. What did Max fucking tweet something out here? If you were a survivor of Camden Gerard Davis, please DM me here. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyways, I don't think any larger creator is gonna. This is one of those situations people are gonna take a walk away from, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. And I don't think many are going to engage.
Okay, listen, chat, is that enough? Have you got enough out of this? Do you want me to call him a retard one more time, or what do you want from this? I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
No, listen.
I do want to ask you for a permission though before we continue. I want to just, I don't know where the fuck that video is of the Kai police report, but you're the only person with like any fucking video of it, and that's.
Do you know who Colton is?
No, is the online handle or something that I probably know him as?
They're like some random commentary orbiter guy who does Michael Jackson dances or some shit. I don't fucking know. But they had access to it. I don't have... I'll see if I can find it after stream. And I
found the account that got removed. MamaMax returns, which is actually one thing that I wanted to say about this whole case. One of the things that is really pissing me off is if this is a real case, I think the amount of attention that Max has put onto it has probably caused the parties here to start deleting stuff. I'm looking into this cult, and I actually am unable to find any information on it at all, or tangible information. I have one merch store, but I can't work off of it, and I at this point, I don't even know if there's a fucking cult at this point, dude. I just think it's a bunch of, teenagers that are running a Twilight fan fiction, and that's about it. But,
But also, I mean, if you're asking for permission to use my video, I mean, yeah, of course, use whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used your content to heavily criticize you. So, if you want to use my content, by all means do. But, yeah, no, I do appreciate you coming on. And also, I just want to say as well, now, this person is a lot more critical of you. They're called Queman, okay? And I think they've got even criticisms beyond what I'm saying. But I think I just want to recognize that, they actually brought that clip to my attention. So whether or not you engage with their stuff, I don't know. They're pretty mean about you. But yeah.
I mean, hey, if there's going to be people that love you, there's going to be people that fucking hate you, and it is what it is. It's par for the course on the internet,
Okay. But I just, because this is probably going to go out or whatever, I just want to recognize that there's a bunch of people that I think have come together to really bring attention to this. So, Lyrics I'd include in that as well. I think Lyrics has done a brilliant job getting into this. I'm sure there's more that I could name. I don't want to miss anyone out, but anyone that's helped with this, great stuff. And it looks like Mutahars had his eyes opened, which is good.
And just one more thing too, I guess, since if this is going out and obviously people are going to be looking at this, if you're somebody that has like any fucking information on any of this call, please just try to get in like private contact. Like, please just broaden the fucking view. I need to fucking just see more. I'm trying to absorb as much information as I can. I'm sure you are as well too.
Yeah.
This is a pretty fluid fucking situation. Look. At the end, before all of this, is like, if there is fucking an actual crime, like actual cult trafficking, whatever the fuck, I hope to God that whoever Max is accusing goes to fucking jail, you know? Right? Like, I think that's what. But right now, nothing is substantial. And honestly, if there is malfeasance, I think Max has ruined whatever case that exists. And I don't know. That's like the thing. But the more days that go by, I don't believe that this case ever had any validity. And I hate to be saying it, but I'm starting to question the testimonies from. I'm going to watch in this 5-hour docket from Spencer, and nothing. I don't know if you've seen the whole 5 hours yet. I'm watching the 5 hours from her, and
yeah,
it's.
I watched the first hour and
painful.
some other clips, and the way I look at it, it's difficult because if they're telling the truth, it's horrendous, all these claims that are made. But it just comes across of like there's little embellishments and details.
It's the hundreds of victims that kind of hit me too, because I like one of the things that one of the questions that I actually raised, and this is to Spencer in a communication too, is there like any travel documents, right? And I think this is pretty important to ask because she had claimed taking the bus and Ubers, and even with the Ubers, right? It's like, shouldn't there be some receipt of the Uber? And it always, like, every single part of that interview was somebody else's account was used to make Uber rides. I believe one of them, she said that a grandmother was involved, so it's like you just couldn't get access to these receipts, which I think is really fucking wild, right? Like, if you're moving around, if you're transferring, like, dude, you should have some travel documentation. You should have something going on. And one of the things that really fucks with me is her miscarriage stuff. I've talked to 3 medical professionals. My dad, he's not a gynecologist. My aunt's a gynecologist. She's been doing it, longer than I've been alive, and even then. Jen, who's a licensed nurse, they've all said her miscarriage stories doesn't make any sense. It's biologically impossible. She hasn't got a DNCs done. So there are massive problems there for me. The other situation that I have a real concern with, too, is in her interview, at least in the first hour, and you all can watch this, she discusses how she went on the Whisper app and sent out calls of vampires and, hey, people who are between 11 to 18. So in a fucking way, she's almost like, if Camden is like the Jeffrey Epstein of the situation, she's kind of like a Ghislaine Maxwell. She's also recruiting people. It's a fucked up situation. So I almost feel like she's in a way complicit in a alleged criminal operation, and these are the issues that I've had. The Kai police report I wanted to specifically get from you because you're the only one that had it, and apparently the story behind this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this girl said that the law enforcement agencies never got involved with her, and now there's a police report and everything, and it's a fucking wild situation.
The long story short with that is, I believe there was a claim that Kai was assaulted when they were underage, but the police report shows that there wasn't the underage aspect to it. The police investigated it. They couldn't find probable cause to conduct an arrest. And there's a question mark over a rape kit that was taken, whether that was followed through with. But I think the investigation wasn't taken further because, 1, there wasn't enough evidence. And 2, imagine you're a police officer and someone comes to you and their first thing is to say, there's a vampire cult and there's all these Facebook groups and all this stuff's happening. It's going to come across as very unbelievable, I think. I think even in MamaMax's approach in this, to not put front and center the most serious claims when you're going to the police. Not that he went to the police, but that's a mistake because people aren't going to take it seriously, which we've seen with the whole circus that's existed around this, right?
Yeah, the thing about, like, so obviously with the rape kit, I know that part is real, and that's why I kind of have to sit through and give more belief. Just because you get a rape kit done, I'm going to be more inclined to believe you, Sure, but even with all of that done, the lies about you being a minor at the time and the law enforcement agencies getting involved, and then to also claim that cops aren't doing enough when they did go out, they did get a statement. And there's one thing I even said on his streams publicly. I'm like, dude, it's what do you expect a law enforcement agent to do? Like, if you came up to me and I was like, let's do fucking role playing. I'm an FBI agent. You're Max. You tell me about a fucking werewolf grooming cult, and I'm going to sit there and be like, all right, is there any evidence of this cult? Like a website or like a fucking sheet that details their goals and outlines. Like, we don't even really have a name of this cult. We have nothing about what they are other than, fucking vampire, werewolf, Twilight cultists, and they were trying to get hundreds of women. One of the things that I even saw in Spencer's case was she was forced into a relationship, but it was mostly done over the internet. Like, it was a long-distance one between Texas and California. So how much of this is in person versus how much of this is strictly done entirely online, So that's another big thing. I think trafficking, and I believe the basic requirement for trafficking is just crossing state lines. A minor being enticed across state lines too is actually a huge thing in the Onision situation. That doesn't, without travel documentation, it's like, I don't know, there's not enough story to go off of, and I've explained this, and that's what I'm going to come at this with this video as well too, and everyone has already talked about this, and I don't know, this story, it just doesn't. I don't think it. At this point, I'm not believing it ever really happened in the way that this cult isn't real. I don't think it is. I think this might have been teenagers who got involved. And there was a fucked up situation that happened because there is a rape kit involved and everything. I think the cult stuff is very much a super embellishment of actual facts that could have happened. I'm not saying that there probably wasn't any danger. There probably was something fucked up, but I don't think the cult was real.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there's just two more questions I've got. So the first one is like, how do you feel your relationship is what's it gonna be like with MamaMax after this kind of video comes out, do you think?
The relationship is already dead. Like, the bridge is burned. We ended that call on screams. So that call ended up with yelling between each other. I'll give you one hint from that call. When I asked for legal definitions, he printed out a ChatGPT prompt and gave it to me. And it blew me away because, in his words, he said ChatGPT can give competent legal advice. And at that point, I will say, like, I lost my shit on both Spencer and Max, and that was it.
Just a quick note on that. It's funny you say that because I think there was Magnetar suggested that MamaMax was perhaps consulting AI prompts to try and get legal advice before, so he maybe doesn't even have a legal team or a lawyer.
That's a confirmation. Like, he literally told me, like, ChatGPT can give competent legal advice, and at that point, like, I'd lost my shit so much that I screamed and asked him, like, is ChatGPT licensed under any bar association in the U.S.? Like, what the fuck? So I like this, and to explain this is so that call, it's 2 hours long, and the first hour was us talking to Spencer, and I touched upon the miscarriage points just to get a time frame of it because that's really a weird point for me to go on. It's one of the things that I'm going to absolutely have to mention because it's not that I want to poke holes in a survivor's fucking story. It's just that I'm forced to because look, at the end of the day, we're trying to get to the fucking truth, right? Like, Cade hasn't said anything. Spencer's the only one talking, and Spencer's situation is, it is recorded for anybody asking. I can't release anything on it yet. Nick also has it. The thing about it is he tried to get me to sign an NDA about this call, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing this, okay? Stop with this stupid NDA bullshit. What I found out in this was even the evidence server that he brought me into, there was a super secret tier of evidence nobody got to see. So nobody, even if you wanted to understand the fucking story, you can't understand the story because you're unable to see all of this, I guess, bulletproof evidence. And that's just, that's the problem that everyone, even behind the scenes, who he's invited into this evidence server, whether that be anybody, nobody fucking knows, nobody can build a story. And that's literally all we have to fucking say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I guess the other question, well, it's kind of twofold really, so I'll just throw it out there. But like, what do you think like should happen to MamaMax, and what do you think will happen to MamaMax in regards to his channel, his future, etc.?
I mean, given the fact that like one of his investigations is entirely fake, I don't know if I should say that YouTube channel should be removed because I really hate it when YouTube intervenes and deletes a channel. I think wonderful. That, freedom of speech is an important aspect. I think Max has abused his freedom of speech to the point where he has made a mockery of a serious situation. And if YouTube does delete his channel, like, I'm not going to have any sympathy about that, Like, it's not a fucking issue for me. Like, if he loses his channel, like, here's the thing. If you lost your channel because you were saying you calling people retards and YouTube is like, we don't appreciate that, I would fight for you because I believe that anybody should be allowed to be called, a retard, right? Like, that's not it's a fucking word. But you're also not running a fucking, you're also not
sorry, on that point quickly, what about anti-Indian slurs? Would you be up for that as well?
Dude, the internet fucking hates Indians anyways, okay? Like, I call myself a street shitter, so fucking go ahead, dude. I don't give a fuck.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, great. So basically...
Have you seen Twitter? Like, it's fucking... They don't give a fuck there.
Okay, so I guess so that's fine. So basically, you're saying that like you're not going to resubmit the loser's channel. You don't think necessarily that should happen, but if he does, you're not going to care, and that's kind of
No,
where
I
you
think
are
it
with
actually. No, in Max's case, I think it should happen. If he's faking the investigations, he's making a mockery of this. I think YouTube should intervene and stop it. YouTube is already trying to stop fucking predator poaching content if law enforcement isn't involved. So in a way, he's also not got law enforcement involved, yet he's making predator poaching content. So if it's not a direct sting operation, he's still culpable under the YouTube guidelines for getting fucking nuked. You know, so in that regard, yeah. You know, I'm just like that's where I go to. And if he does get taken down, it's not going to be a situation of is he going to start hashtag YouTube loves pedophiles. I'm not going to fucking sit and say that. YouTube clearly doesn't love pedophiles at all.
Yes.
You know, let me tell you guys, I contacted my senior partner manager about a guy making reaction videos to gore and
wonderful.
one confirmed child pornography piece. YouTube immediately nuked that right after the weekend when they got back after the new year. So for Max to say YouTube engages with pedophiles, no, it takes one message to go touch them. His videos got taken down because he's actually violating those harassment cyberbullying guidelines. Now it's shit like this, you know. Obviously, especially which I got to look into those investigations, all of them again. That's going to happen later tonight when I'm finishing the script up. But if you're faking investigations and you're not getting cops involved and you're making fucking fetish porn on the internet about a serious topic that goes against YouTube's TOS, then yeah, your channel should be fucking nuked. Like, what the fuck?
Well, the thing that's so stupid about it is the sentiment against people that do stuff with kids is so terrible anyway. Like, YouTube want to please advertisers. Like, you know, Ford, whatever. They don't want the adverts running in front of predator, pro-predator stuff. So, of course, like, they're against predators. But they're also against, doxing and harassment and just nudity content, which I think he had in one of his videos. So that's the reason they're taking his videos down, right? It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, and one of the things that I guess to further add on to it is like Max has what I believe a distrust of the law enforcement system, at least based on how I discussed this with the call last night, where he doesn't, or not last night, but with Nick a couple days ago, him and Spencer, he has a distrust of the legal system. And look, I get it. Law enforcement can suck sometimes, right? Like even with that rape kit that we were looking at, a lot of rape kits do go unprocessed for years, so these are things that should be taken care of. Law enforcement system does fuck up. It does, but in general, it's the best tool that we have to deliver justice. And yes, there are going to be restrictions. Like you can't do vigilantism. You can't entrap people, right? Entrapment was a pretty important thing, and I believe I brought that up with them as well too. I'm like, if you don't do these cases right with law enforcement, any evidence that you gain that could be used against somebody can land you in serious trouble. And it's always followed up with, we're working with law enforcement, we're doing the best we can with lawyers. Even working cases like Club Penguin with Cavos, those are cases that involve proper gathering of evidence, working with law enforcement partners, working even with commercial companies like Disney and raising awareness, and actual journalist organizations and getting things appropriately done. These are just important situations, and these are things where like YouTube is against pedophiles. The whole world is. But you got to do things the right way. Otherwise, these people get away with it. I mean, EDP 445, that got fucked up so bad. But now it's a situation where he gets to walk free forever, even though most of the world knows what he, really is. As sad as it sounds.
Yeah, sure. Well, like I say, I mean, it's always challenging when someone is just, you're kind of accepting every criticism I think I had. So, I mean, that's good. Not to gloat or anything, but it just kind of is reassuring that I'm kind of on the right mark with what I was saying.
I mean, the thing is, I could sit here and fucking dig my heels in the sand, and this wouldn't affect me career-wise or perception-wise. Like I could weather any storm, Yeah,
that's true,
that's something I can do. I don't have to acknowledge what anybody says about me, but that's not good at the end of the day, right? Like I fucked up, and you could be a 10 million sub YouTuber, you could be a 10 sub YouTuber calling me out, but at the end of the day, what you said was 100% right about it. And if that means that I get to fucking make content going into 2024, 2025, or whatever, and anytime I cover a topic like this, and if I'm not critical of it now, after what has happened with Max, then I'm truly like a supreme piece of shit, It's a matter of, I've said my words now, and this is something that I'm going to be taking as action going on forever. I fucked up now. I cannot fuck up like this in the future. And you can dig your heels in the sand and ignore criticism, but that ultimately makes you a bad that doesn't allow you to grow or change or do anything better. So, this is one of those situations where, you know, I'm just I'm willing to accept any criticism. I made a fuck up, and that's what it comes down to. And now it's time to make things right, or do the best we can, especially with people like Magnetar, who I think has been the most hurt out of this situation too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. I look forward to your video. Sounds like it's going to be good.
Yeah, and just if you can maybe get me that fucking police report, but I can just look up your video, and that's about it.
It's fine. I'll see if I can get the original source, and we'll go from there. Okay.
All right. Thanks, man. Take care.
Cheers. You too. Bye.
Bye.